What's going on, everybody? Free to play OG here, and today I'm coming at you with a quick breakdown of the Tier 4 selector that we're going to be receiving for the 10-year anniversary tomorrow. Hopefully, all are as excited as I am. We got massive rewards coming at us, and this is going to be our first attempt in breaking down some of what we've got coming. So we're going to be looking at this selector from a free-to-play and new player perspective because I think we get a lot of the perspective from the top end, but it's often that lower end perspective that we're missing. So that's how I'm going to be breaking this down. We've got your top priority picks. These are going to be the ones I think are the most important to look at from the selector overall. Consider second, and these are going to be ones that I feel like if you don't need the top priority ones because you already have them or you have something else that fills the role that they fill, these will be the characters that you should maybe consider second. Probs not are the ones that are out of date or something you probably don't need to even consider. And then not for free, not for me is going to be our seasonal uniforms that are paywalled and that we do not have access to as free to play players. So that is going to be characters like Sharon Rogers, unfortunately, with her seasonal uniform. Characters like Black Bolt, his seasonal uniform, which I will take a second to say is one of my favorite uniforms ever put in the game aesthetically. I absolutely loved this uniform. The skill effects with the V-pad and the look of it. It's a fantastic uniform in my opinion, but very old. So here it stays, as well as being seasonal and not available to free-to-play players. And then last, we have Storm, who has been locked behind the paywall for oh so long. And is painful for the free-to-plays, but there she stays. She's been locked behind a seasonal uniform for years, and being one of the only blast mutant females in the game that's accessible to free-to-play players, we're hoping to see her break out of this box sooner or later, but for now, she's going to be in the seasonal category, but that is going to be it. And after that, I think we'll just walk down the row here and put these characters where we think they should be. So let's start with Shadow Shell here. Shadow Shell is a very old Tier 4 in the grand scheme of Tier 4s. This uniform is very, very old. I can't see any reason you would be getting this beyond collecting, so probably not. Also, yeah, it was decent when it came out. Elemental, if I recall, because of the poison damage. I don't know, I might be making that up. Anyways, probably not the choice you want to make. Spider-Man, I'm going to park and consider second for now, and we'll talk more about this a little further down the road. I have kind of split opinions on Spider-Man. I'm not the biggest fan of Spoodermoon in this game to begin with. Some people, I mean, I like Spider-Man okay as a character, but there's complications with his character in this game, mainly being that he wants to perform at high levels in PvP, but because he has no immortality and no revive, he falls in with all the other Tier 1 PvP characters that don't have those abilities and often lose to the stronger native Tier 2 and native Tier 3 characters. So like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute here, but for now, let's move on to Dr. Octopus, who used to be very, very strong, but in my opinion has absolutely fallen off. People mention some instances of really high-level ABX, ABL players getting some performance out of him. I don't see how that's relevant for the bulk of us. This is probably not a good choice for just about everybody, especially free-to-play and new players to the game. Moving on, we've got Hulk here. And Hulk is going to be one of our first characters that's going to go squarely in the top priority, in my opinion. Now, a couple things to say about this. A lot of people are going to have Hulk in various stages of building, and you do want to consider how much of a character's advancement you're going to get with this selection. If you have a Hulk like I do on my account that is level 80 already and on Tier 4's door, that kind of changes your perspective on considering him as a Tier 4. It should, in my opinion. But Hulk is an amazing character right now. Absolutely love this uniform. Love the skills. Very, very strong in ABXL. Has some hang-ups in World Boss Legend that I think get overlooked for free-to-play and new players when your account's not fully built out. Some of those might be dealt with at Tier 4, but I have had some issues with them in World Boss Legend and have had other players reporting some issues. But still very, very strong. and all around just an incredibly strong character with a badass uniform. So in the top priority list he goes. Moving on to Captain America with his zombie uniform. And this one is a little bit tougher to call. I think I'm going to put him on the back end here of consider second. He's a good all-arounder, but I think he just kind of falls victim to there being better choices in almost every situation. He is a zombie, but yeah, like I said, kind of jack of all trades, master of none. Has some use here, some use there, but probably not a good one to get as your first tier 4 or one of your first tier 4s. There's probably going to be a lot better options, which we'll see out in front of him here as we continue through the tier list. So we've got Moon Knight next, and he is going to go squarely in the probs knots. Very old uniform, several years old. This was from the Moon Knight TV show. Been long replaced by other combat heroes. No need to pick him up unless you are collecting or have an absolute fascination with Moon Knight. We also get him as new players at Transcended potential, so he already has closed the gap on value. Would not be a good choice in my opinion at all. Moving on to Iron Man here. And I think Iron Man parks for me right here in between Spoodermoon and Captain America. He is strong, but he is a World Boss Legend 1 trick, meaning that he is really only effective in World Boss Legend. He does have that nifty trick with the 200% damage to enemies below 30 or at or below 30% health, which is very, very nice. So it can be good for pushing World Boss Legend, but is just that, a tool for pushing World Boss Legend. So consider that, and like I said, I'm parking him right here in between these two fellas. I think he's a little better than Captain America as a choice just because he can specialize at World Boss Legend, and if you're going to pick a tier 4 for something like that, you want it specialized. Moving on to Venom here, and Venom's gotten a lot of hype. He was on the image we got with the initial advertisement of the tier 4 Selector, so there was a lot of people talking about Venom. Venom is a great choice in my opinion. He's very, very strong, but we have other characters now in the Selector to look at. I don't think he's a flat out easy number 1 pick for everybody. I think you need to consider this on a personal basis for your account. And where I think he lands personally, talking about free to play and new players, is kind of even with Venom. Or Hulk, excuse me. Venom lands even with Hulk. I think these two are kind of interchangeable as far as who's first and who's second here with what we've got so far. He's very, very strong in World Boss Legend from what I understand. He'll really help with pushing World Boss Legend stages and does well in ABXL, but not as good as his counterparts for either day from what I understand. I've heard conflicting reports with ABX, but I have heard people saying that Wolverine gets better scores for them when he's built correctly. And I've also heard people telling me that Hulk gets better scores for them in ABL than Venom. So it's sort of which one do you want more? Somebody who's really, really strong at World Boss Legend or someone who's really, really strong in ABXL? And the choice is yours. Moving on to Ant-Man, a much easier choice. Gonna go right in here in the probs knots. But let's be real. Let's give Ant-Man the respect he deserves. Sure. Let's put him right here above Moon Knight. I have heard, it may have been a joke, it may have been a meme, but I've heard people say that they've gotten Ant-Man to do a thing or two, which is more than I've heard about either of these characters in the last year or so. So we'll put Ant-Man here in the probs knots right above Moon Knight and below Doc Ock, right where he probably belongs. Next, we are going to be taking a look at Thor. And Thor, in my humble opinion, for new and free-to-play players, is going to sit squarely here at the top of the tier list. I think Thor is an amazing pick. If you're following our live stream series and our free-to-play account, we have tier 4'd Thor, and he is cooking for us. Thor is very, very good at farming. He's good at farming dispatch. He's good at farming dimension rifts. Not as good at pushing dispatch for me so far, but I have also heard reports that with a very, very good build at endgame, he's incredibly strong in World Boss Legend. So far, he's tearing it up for us in World Boss Legend. I think because he covers so many different types of PvE content so well and has such good capacity as a farmer for your account. For free-to-plays especially, I think he parks squarely here as top priority. Is my opinion. There will be others, I'm sure. Feel free to talk about it in the comments. But yeah, I think that's where that lands for me. And I think that's a pretty safe bet. Last, we've got Black Widow in her Venomous uniform. And I am going to put Venomous Black Widow right here. And it's going to be a similar thing to Hulk and Venom, but also totally different. You'll have to decide for yourself which of these two characters you think is better for PvP. We have a new PvP game mode coming that is 3v3 like Alliance Conquest, and plays out automatically. And Black Widow is going to do well in modes like Otherworld Battle and Alliance Conquest, and in the new PvP mode that's being introduced. So for me, I think I would put it like this. The way I understand Spider-Man in his current state, he relies heavily on the symbiotes and team-up collection to be really effective, and he's more effective in timeline battle than modes with multiple characters fighting at once. So for me, that shifts his value down a little bit, considering that we've got another PvP game mode coming out tomorrow with multiple teams in it fighting with multiple characters at once. So there you have it. There's our layout for what I think free-to-play and new players should be looking at for their Tier 4 Selector from the 10-year anniversary in Marvel Future Fight. Before we go, I do want to mention one thing. In my typical style, I want to make this a little more complicated. And I do want to mention what I'm looking at on my account just to demonstrate how nuanced this choice can be and how much it matters that you pay attention to what you have and what you need. My tier list for our account that we're piloting on our free-to-play live stream series is going to look a lot different. It's going to look more like this. Let's see here. Hulk is going to drop way down. Venom is going to drop way, way down for me. You're gone. You're gone. And it's probably going to look more like that. And this is what I'm considering for my tier list. So it looks a little different than other people's. And that is because I have Wolverine heading to level 80 with his artifact, tearing it up in PvE for me. So that detracts from Venom's value. I have Hulk level 80 on tier 4's door. So that detracts from Hulk's value from the Selector for me. I also have most of my PvE bases covered already. So with a new PvP game mode coming out where you need multiple teams of characters for PvP, that puts tremendous value on these characters for me. So it's likely that I will be picking one of these two for my tier 4 character for the account. And right now I'm leaning towards Venomous Black Widow, believe it or not. Last thing before we go, if you are buying seasonal uniforms, Sharon Rogers is good in World Boss Legend. Very good. So if you have her seasonal uniform or are considering purchasing it, she's going to go somewhere up here with the other World Boss Legend 1 tricks with Iron Man. For sure. Probably like that. And then these two are very old. I think Storm maybe has some use in AVL still. I would have to check the list. But our friend Black Bolt has long since left the meta. All right, my friends, that's going to be it for this one. Thanks so much for hanging out and talking about the Tier 4 Selector with me. I hope you all have a fantastic anniversary. We'll have more videos coming throughout the weeks. If you want to see the live streams, we do every day at 8:30 Pacific on the channel. In the morning, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed this or found it helpful, hit that like button. It helps a lot. I'm Olden Gray. This is Free to Play, and I hope you all have a spectacular 10-year anniversary in Marvel Future Fight. Let's go!